Movie. That's right. This is coming from That Park Place. They say that in WDW Pro. Now, what I think is hilarious here is a number of months ago, I heard that the Ray movie was going to be delayed indefinitely. Now, they're saying WDW Pro, who is a scooper, so take it with a grain of salt. But again, like I said, I heard months ago. I wrote it on my website. I put it out there. I let people know what was going on. But over at That Park Place, WDW Pro is saying the Ray movie is delayed again. Star Wars hits another bump, according to Lucasfilm scoopers. Lucasfilm has reportedly put its Ray Skywalker led Star Wars movie on hold, and this is according to multiple industry insiders. While not officially canceled, the project, once touted as the next major theatrical chapter in the Star Wars saga, has been quietly moved to the back burner amid internal restructuring and shifting franchise priorities. The film, tentatively titled Star Wars New Jedi Order, was set to star Daisy Ridley in her return as Rey, rebuilding the Jedi Order 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. It was to be directed by Academy Award-winning documentarian Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and had cycled through several writers, including Damon Lindelof, Stephen Knight, and most recently, the banker's George Nolfi. According to a report by entertainment insider Daniel Richman, the film has been placed on hold while Lucasfilm focuses on other projects in development. Among those are The Mandalorian and Grogu, currently in production and scheduled to release next May, and director Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, which has reportedly cast Ryan Gosling and is being targeted for a 2027 release. However, not all industry voices agree on the term on hold. Journalist Jeff Snyder has pushed back on the characterization, stating, Lucasfilm doesn't have a finished script yet, so it's not on hold, it's actively being written. They're just waiting on it. His comments suggest that the project remains in development limbo rather than outright paused, but confirms that production is nowhere near starting. The uncertainty stems in part from Lucasfilm's evolving release strategy. The studio, under the leadership of Kennedy, is now spacing out major theatrical releases and giving more breathing room between projects. With Disney facing pressure to revive Star Wars theatrically after a 6-year absence from cinemas, the company appears to be prioritizing proven concepts and marquee characters like The Mandalorian and Grogu. Additionally, a rumored new trilogy spearheaded by Simon Kinberg may be influencing how and when Rey's story unfolds. Sources suggest that rather than a standalone feature, Rey may be repositioned as a key character across multiple interconnected films, further delaying the timeline for New Jedi Order as originally conceived. All right, I'm going to stop there because this this is just typical. It's just Star Wars doing Star Wars things. That's all it is at this point. I've talked about this. The Mandalorian and Grogu, I think, is kind of a dumb idea coming out. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see it. I like The Mandalorian on TV. I just don't think it's a good idea to put it in the theaters. It's going to make money. How much money is the question, but it's going to make money, and it is what it is. I just don't think that it was a smart move in putting that in the theaters. It's essentially when Bob Iger came back into play at Disney, when they booted Chapek and Bob Iger came in and was like, why are there no Star Wars films? Give me a Star Wars film. You got this Grogu and Mandalorian thing that is a massive hit. Why are you putting it on Disney Plus where it's not making us any money? Make the next season a movie. And that's what they did. They did the same thing with Moana 2. They were like, Moana was a huge hit. Why are you making a television series? Make that television series another movie. And that's what they did there. And it was $1 billion hit. So maybe that happens with Mandalorian and Grogu. That'll be, we'll see that next year. But when it gets down to it, Ray, I've been saying this for quite some time. Yes, the sequel trilogies made billions and billions of dollars. Each movie made $1 billion plus, near $2 billion in the first one. They all made money. Like, they all made buku bucks. Absolutely. But the Rey character was so divisive, and each movie made less and less money. Why would you go back to that well? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And the sequel trilogy has not, at least at this point, has not become like what happened to the prequel trilogy. Because if you take a look at the prequel trilogy, what happened with that was at first you had the prequels where some people did not like them. They just didn't like them. But eventually people came around. Over the years, people were like, "Oh, we really like the prequels. We really like the prequels." Things just kind of turned around for the prequel trilogy and people really liked them. And now they love Hayden Christensen. They love Ewan McGregor. They love Ian McDermott. They love all these characters and actors from it. They want to see more of it. They want to see more from that time period. They want to just be engrossed in that time period from that era, everything like that. That hasn't happened with the sequel trilogy. Yes, it has its fans, but it is nowhere near the scope and scale that happened with the prequel trilogy over time. Now, some people think it's going to happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen. The hatred and disgust for the sequel trilogy is vastly different than the hatred and disgust was for the prequel trilogy. There was actually no disgust for the prequel trilogy. There was some, uh, you know, hatred. There were some people that didn't like it, but there was legit disgust when it comes to the sequel trilogy. And because of that, I don't see people coming around like they did to the prequel trilogy. So, coming back to Ray, especially so quickly, I don't think it's a good idea. And I think Disney is starting to understand that and see that. Because when they announced this film not that long ago, and they were like, Charmin Obeah is going to do it. And they were like, oh, wait a minute, isn't she kind of like a feminist and all of this stuff? And then it was just like, whoa, now it's in woke Hollywood. And what are they going to do? Pull all this crap into this movie? And it just all this controversy kind of spun up about this movie and people just pushed back. So then they were having writer issues. It was one writer, next writer, next writer, next writer, because they couldn't crack the code, because they don't know how to write this character. This character just hasn't worked fully because they never developed the character well in the trilogy that she was in. And that is a problem. And to be able to really utilize this character, you need to fix her. You need to fix her as a character, and to get people to like her, you need to start there. And to then just start off a new trilogy of movies, just, "Hey, here's Ray, and we're gonna go moving on." Like, no, I think it is not a bad idea to kinda throw her in little projects here or there to maybe slowly get her involved somewhere. But I really don't think this movie is gonna happen, at least not in the state, not with this director, not anywhere in the near future, especially with Kathy Kennedy leaving soon. I think if she leaves by the end of this year and this movie is not in pre-production, like moving in pre-production, this movie never happens in this state. Now, that's not to say in 5, 10 years from now, whoever's running Lucasfilm at that time doesn't re explore it and say, you know what, let's go back and revisit Ray. But it's definitely not going to be any kind of thought that they had with what they want to do now. Again, no, it's just not a smart move to go with Ray. They have the Old Republic. Like, I don't understand, why don't they explore the Old Republic or go back, do the James Mangold thing, like call him up and say, look, we want this now. Let's fast track this. Let's get this first Jedi story written. Let's get it going. Let's do this. Let's jump up 100 years into the future. Let's focus on the Clone Wars era because people like that stuff. Let's focus on these different eras that people want to see, as opposed to focusing on an era that was so divisive people don't really care about anymore. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And make sure you hit that like button and subscribe.